Welcome back to another episode of Cultural Colloquy, and today we have a very inspiring artist. But yeah, we can just. Oh yeah, please.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
We have to start over.
No, it's okay.
I thought the music was on.
So yeah, we can just get right into it. You can start by telling everybody your name and what would you say got you to where you are today.
Hello everyone, my name is Lanise. I'm a figurative artist working out of Los Angeles. I was born here, partially raised in New York, and I've been painting seriously for about 3 to 4 years. I guess it's like a professional. And I guess what got me here, that's a long story, but it's always been something that I've wanted to do. I've always wanted to be an artist, but I just didn't think it was possible. So growing up, I didn't see a lot of artists. I didn't interact with a lot of them, but I remember going to the museum a lot. I love the museum, look up artists, go to the library and study a lot of artists. At that time, I didn't really know that many Black artists, but I saw Renaissance artists and people from different periods that I really liked. So yeah, it's just a long journey of trying a lot of different things. I wanted to do so many different things, but I always came back to art, and that was my real passion. I love to sing, I love to write, I love to do so many things, but art was always. I always came back somehow. It's like the universe brought me back to it.
No, I know that feeling. What does culture look like to you?
Culture. Well, I think culture, the definition of culture is kind of custom things, traditions. And I think for our culture, as Black Americans, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I think our culture is doing good and sometimes I think we have a lot of things we need to work on. So, what I want for our culture, I can say that. I think I want us to be more connected. I want us to be more loving to one another. I want to see more community. I want us to give back more to the community. I just think, I don't know. I think our culture is a work in progress, but I think it's beautiful at the same time. I think that we have so many things about our culture that makes us so unique, and it's like our culture is one of a kind. The world loves to emulate the different aspects of us, and so that's the thing that's beautiful. And even within the kind of struggle, there's so much beauty to be found. And I'm optimistic for the future of our culture, and I want us to keep just telling our truth. I think that's what's important, and that's what I try to do with my work.
No, I definitely saw that when I first went to your website or looked at your work. I saw a lot of honesty and vulnerability in your work. What do you feel like your place in culture is?
Well, I feel like I'm humbled, honestly, to be able to do what I love to do. And I'm always thankful that I have this voice that people care about, even if it's on a, whatever, I guess, level it's on, or however many people it reaches. There's people that want to hear what I have to say about things within my work, and I'm just always thankful for that. So I think that I do have a voice, and I do think that I have a purpose to fill. So yeah, sometimes I feel like I have my ancestors behind me, and they're propelling me forward in a way. So I'm always trying to walk in that purpose, and that purpose is ever changing, ever evolving. I'm ever asking what it is.
I feel like as artists, I don't want to say it's easier, but we are definitely, I feel like the best way to describe it is almost like channeling. You're channeling from past, What are you working on?
So right now I'm only working on like a couple of paintings. I just had I have a solo show that's up right now. It's in downtown LA at Seasons LA Gallery.
Go check it out.
Plug on Olive Street.
We'll link it down below.
Yeah. So yeah, I have like 10 paintings in that show. And so I was working on those paintings for several months. And now I'm working on 2 works that kind of deal with, they're more intimate scenes. So the work at Seasons, they were more theatrical, and they had these exterior scenes with like landscape, and they had more of a surrealistic element. It was part of this chronology of a story that I've been talking about, and that was like kind of another chapter of the story. And so I often have like several bodies of work happening at the same time. And so I have some that kind of deal with more so the past, more so the future, and then some that have more of the present. So the ones that I'm working on now have more of the present, but they still have surrealistic elements and kind of dream elements, and I'm evoking that more with I'm attempting to evoke it more with the colors. I'm using kind of like more muted, bluish, purplish tones to kind of get that element of, another place or another.
Like dreamlike.
Another dream, yeah.
Okay. No, I definitely see that. So would you say, or what is your biggest success this month?
Biggest success will be the show.
The show?
I was really proud of myself. I attempted some of the most ambitious paintings that I've ever attempted, and one of them was 12 feet by 8 feet. So I was just proud to complete it and finish it, and then just to see the reactions of the people who came to the show and like what they had to say about it, that was like, got me in my feels, because a few people cried, and I was just like, wow, like, I was like, this is my purpose. So I guess not folding under pressure, because I was still under pressure. I was still under pressure.
Well, no, you made it through, that's what's important. Well, to that, like, what would you feel like, or what is your biggest obstacle? How'd you get over it?
Biggest obstacle was dealing with, I would say there's 3 things. Dealing with pressure, because I kind of have to be the one to push myself, and as my career has begun to evolve and grow, it's like, I have all these kind of like eyes on my work and people watching to see what's gonna happen, and I feel that. So it's like, and then of course me coming from humble beginnings, I'm like, well, I got this opportunity. I have to take hold of it. I don't want to, let myself down, because it's like I worked hard and so many other people have wanted this for me. So sometimes I feel that, but then I tell myself to just, my work speaks for itself. All I can do is do what I do and try my best. And every time you do a painting, it may not be the grand, whatever that everyone loves. Like, you have to just do what speaks to you. And some paintings will speak to certain people, and some work will speak to other people, but you have to do what's true to yourself. So that kind of gives me grounding to like, just not give a fuck, but just like, be like, you know what? My work speaks for itself. I'm doing what speaks to me. I believe in this, and I'm learning to have more confidence, basically.
Okay, yeah.
And that's helping me kind of get through the pressure and the anxiety, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, as an artist, I feel like it's easy to be hard on ourselves. To like, especially if like what we create doesn't resonate with, or what we perceive is a lot of people, So yeah.
That pressure is real.
What do you want to accomplish by the end of the year, and what do you feel like you have to do to get there?
By the end of the year, well, I definitely want to get myself into a place where I feel like I'm balancing my schedule better. Because like right now, I've been working a lot, and there's a lot of shows. You know, I have shows lined up for the next year and a half. So I'm trying to figure out which ones to do, and I've been saying no to a lot and dropping a lot of shows, and that's helping me release some pressure, because I'm like, some things are just impossible. But it's just one person, like I don't have an assistant or anything, so I want to continue that. I want to continue to do better with my schedule, and I guess I'm still looking to do like a New York solo show. So I've done like a big solo show in LA, I've done one in Miami, one in Italy, and I have one coming up in London. But I want to do a big one in New York, and I've had like some opportunities, but they just weren't the best fit. So I'm kind of looking for like the right fit, and yeah, because like a lot of my family's closer to New York City, so they would actually be able to go see it.
You know, it's always a gratifying feeling when your family is able to see you. What would you say some of your passions and your loves are?
My passions, I would say I love to sing. That's like probably, well, if I could tier them, it would be painting. Singing and writing kind of go hand in hand in art, but I would say like painting, singing, and then writing, probably. But they're all like my passions.
That's dope.
And I love to dance. In the studio, especially. That's not corny, but it's true.
No, it's okay. Speak your truth. So what got you into painting, and when did you start?
What got me into painting? So I've always wanted to paint, but I didn't really know how to paint, because painting takes a lot of technique and process. So growing up, I didn't have access to like real paint, like quality paint, besides like the paint you have at school, or like temper paint.
Yeah.
And so I would paint with that, but it wasn't giving what it was supposed to give. Like, it wasn't looking like how the paintings, like the Renaissance and like old master paintings, which I used to study those type of books, and I would kind of replicate them with drawings. And then I would draw like my friends and stuff like that. And I was really good with drawing, but my paintings weren't translating the same. So I kind of just left it alone and started playing with pastels, which is kind of like a dry pigment. It's kind of similar to paint, but it's just dry. It's like chalk.
Yeah, like oil paint, right?
Well, they have oil pastels.
Yeah,
I hated those ones. And I like dry pastels, but now I hate dry ones and I like oil ones. I don't know. But when I was younger, I hated the oil because they're kind of like messy. They're both kind of messy. Unless you have the right material or kind of like surface. So I'm actually going to get into it again on canvas, like dry, like kind of like this, using the pastel, but you don't, like this is gessoed, but it'll be just like raw. Sorry for that whole thing, but yeah, so, growing up I was doing pastel, and then when I started school, when I was 18, when I started college, I took a painting class as an elective, and at that time I was a fashion major, because I love to do like fashion illustrations, like sketches, and I thought that it was more of a career. So I'm like, okay, this makes more sense. And I took the painting class as an elective, and I did my first like oil painting, and my teacher was just like kind of blown away, because it was like we have this really amazing understanding of color and like form and line, and I was just like, really? And he kind of boosted me up. He was just like, he's like, you have a gift and you have something special, like do you want to be an artist? And I was like, well, I've always wanted to be an artist, but I didn't think it was possible, as a career. And he's like, no, you have something special, like if you give it your all, you can go far. So he really pushed me into like eventually going to art school and things like this. Originally, I just wanted to just go get my associates and then maybe go like to a Cal State or something. And he pushed me to go to art school, and fast forward a few years later, I started at Otis College of Art and Design, and kind of honed my skills more. And then I got obsessed. I've been obsessed since like 2017, I would say. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no.
I went on a tangent.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure it's. Alright, it is funny. For some reason, I thought I didn't click the record button,
Okay.
and I would have been so bad. But so you brought up how your teacher said you have like a good understanding of like art, and would you say that like started, or you had that because you were drawing first, or?
I think so. I mean, I think it helped. You know, I definitely think I have this intuitive understanding. Like, of course, learning helps.
Yeah.
But, you know, some people have like certain things that they have like intuitively. And I definitely think like my understanding of color, that was like more intuitive. And just my understanding of form, like as a child, like when I was young, like, I was able to just look at people and just draw them.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of could replicate what I saw, and I could also replicate what I saw in my mind. And so, but I just didn't have the, I guess, inspiration to finish a lot of work. So I would kind of start a lot of things and abandon them because I just didn't have that passion, I guess. I didn't really know what I wanted to say. Because before it was just like, okay, I would see something and then I'm going to draw that or I'll paint that or something in my mind, but I didn't really know what it meant or why I was doing it. And then I was into so many things. I was like into ancient civilizations. I was like a super nerd into so many different, you know, aspects of like science and like religion and history. And so I started kind of pulling from those things from my early work. So my first works were very like supernatural, and you know they had this heavy spiritual element, this heavy kind of historical, like archaeological kind of element. And then I just started kind of bridging from that. So it just, the more I kind of invested, the more I started to not only invest in what I wanted to say, but then invest in like kind of my body of work and like what it was saying in totality.
Like almost your voice.
Yeah, my voice.
Voice as an artist.
So now I say I'm like creating this universe.
Okay. So who are your role models?
My role models, I would say, like art role models.
Just, there's no specific, just role models in general.
That's a hard question. I would say.
It can be pertain to art, if that's where most of the role models come from.
I guess, I look at Black women as a whole. I think, you know, look at the history of Black women, and I'm proud of us.
As you should be.
I think that we have been killing it for a while, and we're finally getting like our recognition. So I definitely look to like historical, you know, artists, music artists, you know, visual artists, writers. I love Maya Angelou. You know, I love Eartha Kitt and what she had to say about so many different things. I love people like Aretha Franklin. Of course, I love Beyonce because she be representing for us. And, you know, I also look up to people like, of course, like Martin Luther King and, you know, there's just so many people that I think, and as far as artists, my biggest living role model is Kerry James Marshall.
Okay.
I love his work.
Yeah.
And I just feel like what he did as far as, or what he's continuing to do is with his career, he did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So like, I remember listening to one of his interviews and he was like, he wanted to try every avenue of visual art. So he wanted to do like, you know, art that dealt with more of the domestic, art that dealt with more of the exterior, art that was more maybe abstract in a way, art that had more Fauvism, you know, things like that. And, you know, it kind of, seeing an artist like that be so dynamic and and try so many different things makes me feel like I can try so many different things and that I can like be multifaceted in that way.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially now, like today, you look at being a Black artist is a good thing, but it's also sometimes like a double-edged sword. And I think this can go for like any artist, but now that it's so commodified, and so it's kind of like you have this one thing that you're doing, and the market likes it, and then it's like they want you to continue that same thing, and it almost prevents you from being creative. And so I tell myself like it's okay to just, you know, like I have this
Go outside of the box.
Yeah, go outside of the box. Like I have this narrative that I'm creating, and it's been building up for the past like year or 2 years. But I'm like, you know, not every painting is gonna fall into that narrative. Not every painting will be, you know, so cohesive.
People perceive it or want it to be.
Yeah. And it was just, you know, do what you want to do.
Yeah, no, you kind of spoke about it like off camera, like you're at the end of the day, and you're making it for yourself almost in a way. It's like you're doing what calls you.
Yeah, I have to do what I want to do, or else it's not gonna be good.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm like working and you know I don't like what I'm painting, then I'm gonna be bored.
Yeah. No, I've been there.
That's like the worst.
When going through your website, 4 words you use stood out to me in your bio about who you are and your work, and I like to know what these words mean to you. Analogous. Analogous. Thank you. Hidden histories, digital space, and the in between.
Cool. That's really good. You got some good notes. So the analogous just means next to or like adjacent. So I kind of learned about analogous when I was learning color theory. So you have like the color wheel, and there's like complementary, which is basically opposite, and analogous is next to. So like analogous tones, this painting is actually painted in analogous tones because you have like the purple, the maroon, and the blue, and so like the maroon is next to the purple and the blue is next to the purple on the other end, and so that would be an analogous spectrum. And so I think about this analogous thing a lot when I'm crafting like this universe, and so I say it's like the analogous world because it's like adjacent to our own, and often I call it the space of impossibility. So when I was creating like this universe, my idea was to create a world that were these subjects that I was calling chameleons because they're ever evolving, ever growing, ever changing, which I was calling us, the Black people, the chameleons, because we're ever adapting. And they were in this realm that had not been subjugated, had not had colonialism in the same way that we have. And so I was like trying to tell this analogous or this parallel story. And so even though it's like its own thing, it intersects with our own because sometimes some aspects of the story relate back to our world.
Okay.
And then hidden histories comes into that story through that kind of analogous or that parallel. So you may see something in that world that seems different. Like for example, I have this painting called To Be Moved with the Wind. And the figures, they're like going through this landscape and they're trying to leave one destination, go to the other one, where they think it's going to be safer. But it ends up kind of they're going the wrong direction. But that painting also ties to the chronological history of migration of Black peoples. And so that would be where the hidden history comes through the analogous space.
Wow. Wow, no, that's damn, that's good. That's a digital space and the in-between.
So the digital space, originally in my earlier works, I was kind of I was also playing with a double entendre, which I guess I like double entendres. And so I was playing with assimilation and a simulation.
Okay.
And so the digital space was kind of like representing the simulation that we were in. It was also representing the simulation that we're experiencing through being interconnected with everyone. So I haven't been using the digital space as much lately because I've been kind of going more into this analogous realm. Because before I was using the digital space via pixelation to kind of represent that code of the digital. And so it's kind of took in a back seat recently, but I definitely think ideas of technology, whether it be ancient or future technology, still is talked about in the work, and that can kind of be related to the digital space as well. And the last question is
the in-between.
The in-between. The in-between is also kind of this idea of this push and pull between what is tangible and what is intangible. And so in my paintings, I want to have elements that are very tangible or feel very tangible. I describe the figures in a very descriptive way, in a very articulated way, to make the viewer feel as though those figures are tangible, are sculptural. But then there's other parts of the painting which are intangible, fall more into the dream state or more into the subconscious. And so that push and pull, I think, is the in-between.
Okay. No, those 4 words specifically, like, really stood out to me. So thank you for explaining those. Is there an end goal to the art that you created?
An end goal? Well, I would say, like, you mean when I'm like an old lady?
Yeah, like, do you want to have your own like art studio where you help the future generation?
Well, actually, yeah. So one of my main goals is to build a community center. So I want to build a community center / school in Los Angeles and also in Syracuse, which is another city that I grew up in.
Okay.
So yeah,
You
because
don't have
I
to
think
tell the world all your plans. No, surprise them.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's why I kind of didn't want to.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's not bad, but it's just I want to just be about it, not just because then people take like little soundbite and then they're like, okay.
Don't steal her idea.
Or they're like, where is the school? you got to this,
Yeah.
crazy. But that is something I want to do because when I was younger, I wish I had a lot of outlets like that.
Yeah. No, that's a kind of a part of what I want to do too. It's like pretty much offering what I wish I had when I was younger to the younger kids, younger generations.
Because that's when it's so vital.
Yes.
That's when it's so vital. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder. Well, I used to think about like, well, what if I had these resources? But then I'm like, well, would it have made me who I am today? Maybe the adversity helped shape me.
Definitely.
So it's like,
it's kind of 50-50.
but it is always good to have resources.
Always.
It makes things easier.
You have access to more. That's what it is. Access. Where would you say inspiration for a new painting comes from?
It comes from everywhere. It can come from walking down the street. It can come from, most of it comes from my dreams. But I have visions too. Don't get weirded out. But I have visions like during the day and during like my waking moments. And I would say that, and also when I'm in a bathtub, so TMI. But I feel like I'm a conduit with water. It gets real spiritual.
So you can like see, I believe in, I'm a spiritual person myself, so I believe that.
Yeah, so like I feel like I'm a conduit because when I'm in the bathtub, a lot of things come to me. And I like write a lot while I'm in the bathtub, like on my phone. I like write. And I get a lot of ideas. Like a word will come to me, and then, or I'll hear words, and then I'm like, sometimes it's words I don't know, and I look them up, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, so, like the other day, this word noetic came to me, noetic, and I was like, what does that mean? And it means the intelligent one, the one that has the secret knowledge. And so I was like, So then I just wrote that down, and I was like, who has the secret knowledge? Who are the keepers of the secret knowledge? And then I was thinking like, okay, a painting, keepers of the secret knowledge. What is the knowledge that they're hiding? And then it's like, it'll build up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I asked that already. Do you like to give context to your art, or do you want it to speak for itself?
Kind of both. Yeah, I want people to get the general gist of the painting, but I don't want it to be heavy-handed.
Okay.
I don't want it to be like, very directional. So where people are looking at it, it's like, there's a text here, just how you feel, or like the emotions are so kind of over dramatic. I want it to be very nuanced in its approach, while also being theatrical. This is the push and pull that I talk about. I want there to be this theater about the painting, and then people kind of get pulled in. But then I want there to kind of be certain parts of it that are open-ended. So where it's like, some people will look at a painting and just think that it's this kind of ethereal, euphoric theme or scene, but when they look closer, they realize it's not euphoric at all. It's not utopian at all. There's certain elements of it that are kind of dystopian. There's certain elements of it that are a bit anxious.
I like that. So I know almost all your paintings I feel like vary in the core message, but what do you feel like is have you found a constant message in all your paintings?
A constant message, I think. I would say most of them are kind of spiritual, have a spiritual thread in them. So I think that's something that kind of there's something emotional, somewhat slightly psychological, and spiritual in some capacity. And and of course it's intentional sometimes, but sometimes it's not intentional. I think that's just because it's me, and I'm very spiritual, I'm very at times emotional, I'm very psychological at times, philosophical. So it just permeates into the work because those are the things that I'm interested in.
Yeah, no, it's just a part of you naturally. What does the world you want the viewer, or what does the world you want the viewer of your work to be transported to look like?
What does the world that I want the viewer to be transported looks like? Yeah,
because in your again, referring back to your bio, you talk about how you like to bring the viewer into a world. What is that world look like?
Well, the world I was calling the space of impossibility, and I wanted Black people to envision themselves in a reality that was free of pain, or a space where they could deal with trauma, or they could enact change. And kind of a hopeful space, like a space of healing. And I think that, in a way, I want my work to be an act of healing for me, but also maybe help heal other people. So I would say a space of healing, a world of new possibilities for us. And I also just want them to see themselves, because I think historically there has been a lot of Black artists, more so recently, but I haven't seen as many artists creating this uplifting image of the Black body. I've seen more so this erasure of the Black body. There's something about it that is has a slight disdain about it, or almost a sullenness, this kind of spookiness.
It's about glorifying certain things.
Yeah, some kind of caricatures of Blackness, which I think is very prevalent in Black art even today. There's something about it that is it still ties within a history of erasure of the Black form. So you may see a lot of figures that are like overly, the color is overly emphasized as dark.
Yeah.
The expressions are more on a kind of aggressive or scary or something. There's something about it that kind of ties into these stereotypical imagery of Black people. And I think sometimes it's a subconscious thing that we do also as Black people is, and then I guess I overanalyze it because I see that those images often get commodified more readily by the greater public of collectors who often are non-Black. So then I'm like, why is that the case?
Yeah.
But when you see like Black people kind of enjoying and thriving, that isn't always accepted as readily. And I do think this is somewhat changing with like artists like Amy Sherrill, who also often shows like Black people at leisure. So it is changing, you know, but I just want to kind of negate that. But then I also want to show Black people suffering sometimes too, and dealing with things. You know, I want to show them in a real way. So I don't want to just only show them in this kind of utopian fantasy that has no pain. Because even with the recent show that I had at Seasons, there, and then they heard the wind, it's kind of about the storm that's coming. And I want to tell the story of colonization through this parallel lens, and the wind acts as the colonizer, like the storm. And the writing for the show, I said the wind acts as a colonizer. So the paintings of upcoming work is a little bit more, I guess, darker. Yeah, like it has more of a more emotional element, and I definitely wanted to push that more because I guess we're in kind of a blue time.
Like, you mean in the art world or just in the world in general?
The world in general.
Interesting.
I definitely am hopeful that we're gonna be out, you know.
Are you talking about with like specifically like what's going on in Ukraine, the war?
Just like the world, yeah, a lot of war, a lot of rumors of war.
Yeah.
I think there's like we're not completely out of the pandemic, but we're getting out of it. But now we're dealing with the trauma, the psychological trauma of the pandemic.
Yeah. That
has not just affected, you know, it's literally affected everybody. And then of course like the economy and how, you know, we're living in this hyper-capitalist structure that's kind of at the brink of destruction. Yeah. I don't want to get too tired.
No, but you're speaking on something that's real, because I've noticed it too. It's like, it's almost like it's folding in on itself.
Yeah.
And it's like...
So I want to like be, you know, I feel those influences. Yeah. And I want to describe, you know, some of the anxieties. No, you know, in my own way. Yeah,
no. I feel like everything you're bringing up is like really important, and I'd love to see like that portrayed in art. Because not to get off topic, but there's this artist I really like. His name is Big Sin, and he brought up in a song pretty much saying how like art is our way of making sense of everything, the world, you know, and I'm like paraphrasing what he said, but we're talking about the same thing we're talking about, and I found that true.
I think art is like important to, you know, also like cement certain time periods or certain moments in time. And so I felt like it was time to bring in more drama, time to bring in more psychological, I guess, anxiety or terror that was, you know, even in certain, I guess, fragments of it, because like the works that I'm working on now are kind of specifically about relationships. But, you know, it's also kind of about that psychological stress, you know, and how it weighs on some people more than others, and specifically the way it's weighing on the men more. And I think about Black men a lot because I see I work downtown, and the majority of the homelessmen that I see are Black men. And I just wonder how that happened to them. How did they get to that point? And seeing so many of them, it makes me think about them a lot.
Yeah, no, it's something that's crossed my mind too. But that's like a whole nother.
That's a whole nother thing, yeah.
What art form do you feel helps you make sense of your life and the world around you the most, in what ways?
Well, of course, my art is like my therapy, but music.
Yeah.
I mean, music is so healing. I listen to music. If I'm up 16 hours a day, I'm listening to music 15 hours a day.
I feel that, yeah.
I'm listening to music, like, I love Afrobeats, I love Malayan music, I love, like, oldies. I was listening to some before you came, like, I just love music. Music is,
yeah.
I don't know what we do without music.
Man, yeah.
Like, if I can have music and art, it's just like,
why am I here?
yeah.
Why am I here?
I mean, why still would have nature? Nature is my other thing that I love, but.
Well, I definitely wouldn't be in the city if those things. But I feel that, yeah. It's definitely important, I feel like, as an artist to get out in nature, just because it helps you, like, at least for me, it helps me ground myself.
I need to do more nature walks, and I like to do a lot of like my shoots in nature. So I'm gonna do more soon.
I kind of already answered that. Is it safe to say that your analogous world is portrayed in your paintings, or are you still discovering it? Or is it like, I feel like it's one of those things that's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's constantly changing, yeah. I think it's always gonna permeate in the work. But I could do like a hard left and I'm like into something completely different.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get more personal, and that's something I'm like edging towards.
Okay.
But I can't just jump like too fast, because it's not like I've really studied enough or studied how to execute it well enough. So I want to do it, but I want to do it when it's time.
When you feel.
Yeah, when it's time. So I know that it's coming soon because I started writing. I'm building up some titles. And so I want to talk like more so about my childhood and like upbringing and like family history and but then also tying that into other aspects of the work that I've been doing as well.
Okay. No.
I think I'm slowly gonna get more that way.
As someone who creates visual art, how have you adapted as the world continually becomes more digital, or do you not feel a need to go down that path, like creating digital art?
I'm a fan of visual art, but I'm not a fan of me creating digital art. I do use digital tools.
Okay.
So like sometimes if I'm trying to figure out a composition, I'll put my painting, the photograph of my painting into Photoshop, and I'll like, let me change the background, let me change this color, let me see how these colors are working together. I do that probably 20% of the time, like when I'm kind of at a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
So I definitely think digital tools are important, but I just think that my gift is using the paintbrush.
Yeah.
I'm not as good with the digital tools, like vectoring and all that stuff, and Maya. And I had to learn it, but I'm just like,
it's not a calling.
I'm not that good at it. That was like my worst class though. That's the only class I gotta be.
That's
B minus.
That's a pass. That's passing.
Would be minus, but I was getting like straight A's. So.
Oh, you were one of those students?
Yeah. So I was like, but I couldn't even. I wanted to argue about it, but I couldn't even. I was like, you know what? I'm just not that good. I'm not that good at that. You can't be good at everything. Like some stuff you're just. I definitely think if I like invested the time, but you have to have that passion passion to invest the time. I was more so like just trying to get through that class.
I feel that.
Yeah. But I've gotten a little better with like using cameras and stuff. That was also part of digital media. So. Because at first I couldn't use the camera. It was really.
All right, cool. In what ways does your childhood and where you grew up inspire you?
Well, I haven't been using it into my work,
No.
but not as much. I don't think it has. I would have to investigate more.
Okay.
But I definitely think maybe me growing up in a broken home, I guess, and not with my dad around,
Yeah.
and like, you know, growing up in the late 90s and 2000s, layering like still kind of a crack epidemic, and I grew up in inner city, and so I experienced a lot of trauma, and I think I want to impose images that can help uplift people out of those traumatic ideals of themselves. But I don't know if the work is specifically like pulled from my childhood, because my childhood was like very traumatic. And that's something that I want to, even though it wasn't all traumatic, there was a lot of beautiful aspects of my childhood. I did have a lot of people who tried to like shield me, especially like in schools and stuff, because I was really like an overachiever. And so it wasn't all bad, but there was a lot of things that I kind of want to talk about, but it's just like how to talk about it in a way that's not going to be kind of capitalizing off of my trauma, or like, because when you're a Black person talking about your trauma, there's a history of like Black people talking about their trauma and being commodified, and so I'm very aware of that, and I don't want to fall in that trap of then it's like, kind of putting the spotlight on like my own trauma. So I'm trying to find a way to do it in a way that is healing for me, and I have to realize that it's for me. Like I have to do it when I'm ready, and when I'm ready to talk about it, and when I'm ready to kind of do it in a way that's also giving like reverence to, because it's not just me, it's like a lot of it's about my mom and like, brothers and sisters and family members and like generational traumas, and like I have to give them the right light too. So yeah, it's like I'm working through it. And some stuff is like also like society. It's not only just about my personal like specific family. It could be about like Black people as a whole, or society as a whole. I'm also like really into, thinking about like the ills of society and, ideas of apocalypse and just like all kinds of stuff. It really is. But I tell myself I have a whole like lifetime to like do different things. So yeah, because when I first started doing painting, I wanted to put everything on painting. I wanted to be about my past. I wanted to be about my present. I wanted to be about Black people. I wanted to be about like feminism. It was a lot, and so I had a professor who told me, Lanise, you don't have to put everything in one painting. You could that's like 20 paintings. And when they told me that, I was like, oh, and it got easier, because then I was like, this painting's about this. No, of course they can have other elements, but it freed up a lot of space and time to like create something that was communicated, I think, in a better way. I think it's it's pretty important. It's not just your story you're telling.
I think I didn't. It's not me. I just wrote it. Honestly, the writing process itself.
Sometimes you just have to get it out. Like I have a story about my best friend because I came to LA when I was 17 with my best friend. So, like on a Greyhound.
Oh wow.
Like the whole literally I've seen movies like that I can relate to. And my friend, she's been gone for a while, like, and so I want to tell like her story also, but then it's like, how do I tell her story in a way that's, giving
It justice.
it justice, yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
What's something you've realized about yourself through art?
That I'm crazy,
I mean, I feel like all artists.
I'm not crazy.
No,
Really.
not in a bad way, but like.
But like I'm
all
obsessed
artists,
with
yeah.
I'm obsessed with well no, I'm being silly. What have I realized?
We take silly answers.
Okay, I've realized that I'm really passionate. Yeah, I'm really passionate about a lot of things. I'm kind of like a conduit, I feel like I'm a seer and clairvoyant in a way, and it kind of, it's therapeutic too. It's therapeutic, it's definitely therapeutic. It can get overwhelming at times, but it doesn't weigh on me that much because I'm luckily able to kind of like let a lot of things go, and like, through the paintings I can kind of let them go, in the work, and then it's like the painting becomes this thing that I didn't even anticipate it to be. Like sometimes I'll do a painting and it's like it's finished, and I hate it at first because I'm tired of the painting.
Yeah.
I've been working on this painting for like a month, and it's like I'm just kind of tired of seeing this painting, but I get it done and I'm like, wow, the finish line. It's like I did it. And then like a week later, I'm like, wow, I love this painting. And then I'm like, the 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh my gosh, this painting is so good. And then a month later, I'm like, wow, it's better than. And then it like gets better and better. And I'm like, I did that. Because I feel like it's not all me.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like something else happened during the painting. And like, higher power or something like.
Just took over.
Yeah, there's something because I'm like, there's something else to this.
Give yourself that credit. That's
Yeah.
You create beautiful work.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I felt a feeling of like searching and reaching for something we can't see or grab most when viewing your painting when the smog clears. And I want to ask, like, do you feel like you're searching for something or trying to give meaning to something through your art?
Okay, when it's small clear, that's the one with the hand that has
Trying to grab the sun, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That spoke to me.
Yeah, a lot of people like that one. Yeah, I think so I did this like mini series about LA, or about my experience through the LA landscape. And so that was like when the small cleared, because I had a moment during the winter, when it's like, are you born and raised here?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how like we have those days in the winter that are like to me, like when there's the beautiful days in the winter are like the best time of the year. Like when it's like 72 and it's like just perfectly sunny, and it rained like 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago, and then it's like super clear and you can see the mountains, and so it was kind of that thing where it's like we had all this smog and then the rain came and then it cleared, and then it's like it's so crystal clear, and it's like the sun in LA it hits different.
Yeah.
And so when it's bright, it's like the brightness is just on a different level. So I had a moment where I was looking up, because that's my hand.
Oh wow.
And I looked up and it was almost like God was telling me that everything is going to be getting better. And I think that at the time I was kind of, I was working and I was making work. I probably just started selling my paintings, so I was trying to sell them before that, but I hadn't really had any sales. So I started like selling my work, and I started kind of feeling like I'm going in the right direction, because it was like 2 years where it was just like making work and people telling me that I could do this, but it wasn't really materializing and like anything financially or anything like tangible at that point. But I was still as passionate and still like into it. And I think I just had that moment where I was like, I'm doing
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
Synchronicities. Man. So do you feel so with not only like in that painting, but do you feel like are you what is it you feel like you're searching for? I don't know, like when
Searching for?
mainly like at least with me
I guess I'm always searching. Like I think that's like a good question. What am I searching for?
through your art.
Yeah, I think I'm just like sometimes I feel like I'm searching for the impossible. But I'm always looking to do something that I feel like I haven't seen before. And that was very intentional in the beginning. It was like I didn't want to see any other artists work. I was just in my own little bubble. I'm like, but I'm not like that anymore because I think that we are all part of the singular body and we all kind of ebb and flow together. So I guess I'm searching to be more and more authentic, and I'm searching for like this transformative thing, which is what I call like intangible. Like, I think of God as being intangible as well. And so I guess I'm always searching for that feeling, and then sometimes it can be a little scary because I had this situation where someone fainted at my show looking at a painting. And it was, it was really scary. And I was just like, wow. But that was like kind of, I don't want people to faint, but it was like that overpowering feeling of like almost a spiritual moment made her faint.
Yeah, I understand how that can be scary, but that's all, like you said, that's also a very powerful thing too.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that was crazy. And people, like at my show, like several people cried. It was crazy. I was like, wow, like that. This show really like kind of topped the cake for me. I've had people cry from my paintings before, probably like a couple times before, but like it was like 3 in one night, and then like 2 days later, the girl. I was talking because she was asking me. It was like her and a few other people, and they were asking me about the painting. And she was just standing there and she was looking up at it and she was staring, and I didn't think anything of it. And all of a sudden she just collapsed.
Wow.
And I was just like, we had to get her water and the whole thing. And she was just like, I think you're just a little overwhelming for me.
Probably resonated with her.
Yeah, in a different way. And like I think I've had times where I've looked at my painting and I felt uneasy on my feet. So that's why I think she just went to an extreme with it, but you know, I think that's that feeling of like otherworldliness, I guess, or that kind of and I felt that with one painting that I've seen before, another that wasn't me.
Okay.
A Jackson Pollock painting, and before that I wasn't really a big fan of Jackson Pollock. You know, I was just like, oh, he does the abstract expressionist. At that time I was like this hyper realist in my mind, and I was like, you know, you get kind of like snooty about different types of art, which I'm not like that anymore. I kind of respect all different ways of creating, but at that time I was like that. And I saw this painting and I was like looking at it, and the more I looked at it, the more it started to unveil more things. And then I got a little uneasy.
Wow.
And so when I saw that happen to her, I was like, oh, it must have been a similar thing. So I know and I was like, oh, that's the magic of art.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that music makes you emotional. But I don't think music does that thing of like.
Because it's not visual.
Yeah,
Unless
it's not
like
visual.
a music video. But even that, it's like different. But no, I definitely, damn, that's powerful.
Yeah, it was crazy. My best friend cried, like, because she knows me since when I first came to LA, I was a teenager, and she was a teenager as well. Not the friend that I told you she was missing, but my other friend, it was like us 3.
Yeah.
We were really tight, and so she's known me since, you know, for the past like 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, I think just her seeing the paintings and everything at that magnitude, I don't know, she just broke all the way down, and I was just like, sister, it's fine.
No, that's art is moving. It's moving. So So earlier you defined your meaning of hidden histories. I feel like you kind of touched on it, but do you mean like the histories that have been covered up by people with certain interests?
Yeah. The hidden histories like that been covered up through colonization, through, I guess you could say like our ancestors being enslaved, and then our own hidden histories within our own like direct lineages. And like family, like, 'cause I think there was a period after slavery where we kind of went through this erasure within our own selves of who we were and trying to rebuild this new idea of what it meant to be like an American or African American, and like,
find our identity.
Yeah, and I think that those indoctrinations still affect us today, like via colorism, via, certain patriarchal views within like the Black family structure, and misogyny, and this over materialization or want for material things in order to then feel as though you're worthy. And so I think of like, I always want to get to the root of something, like why is it this way? And then I think about those earlier like histories or those earlier situations, and like trying to like pull that and think about certain works. Like I have this work that I've been wanting to do for years, and it's called The Powers That Be. And so, but it's like a very large triptych, and it has like, it will have like different kind of periods and different stories, but it's going to be kind of an amalgamation of like times all in one.
Oh wow.
And so that is something I do want to do probably within the next year and a half.
Wow. Look out for that. That's about to change.
And oh my gosh, so I have this thing. So I was looking at an old interview that I did a year and a half ago, and I was talking about the painting that I just did for Seasons.
Oh wow.
But at that time I hadn't started or even, thought about doing it. I had maybe written down certain things that were related to it, but it was like a year and a half ago. I wasn't planning the painting, but I was like, I want to do paintings like this, and I kind of mentioned it. And then I was watching it yesterday because I was preparing for like a couple interviews, and I was like, oh, let me look at some old interviews and like see what I was talking about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did just do that painting, and I spoke about it. So it's crazy. But when I just talked about that painting, it made me think of that.
That's cool. That's cool. So if you could meet with anyone that inspires you, dead or alive, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
Oh my gosh, I want to meet Kerry James Marshall and talk to him. He went to the same school as me.
Okay.
And that's kind of the reason why I decided on the school, because at the time I got like a few offers from a few schools. And I was like, Kerry James Marshall in here? Okay, I'm here. And then Charles White was his mentor, and Charles White taught there. And then like Betty Starr and all these other amazing like Black artists. So I was just like, I'll be in good company. But then when I went, I was one of two Black people in fine arts at the time. Now there's more, but when I first came, it was just me and another person. So it was like this weird dystopian feeling when I actually got there. But yeah, I want to talk to him because I know that he said a few things about his experience at Otis, and just want to pick his brain.
Yeah, no. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So what wakes you up in the morning?
Thinking about breakfast. I'm joking. But sometimes
that's valid.
because I've been like trying to work on my, because we all gained a lot of weight during the pandemic, and so I've been trying to work on. So I'll stop eating at like 9, so or 8, and so then it's like you're still hungry, so it's like in the morning I can eat this.
Yes. I know exactly what you mean.
But I guess like to continue to create, that inspires me. I have a lot of life still in me. I want to see a lot more things. I want to travel the world. I want to just continue to like thrive and be my best self. So you know, I still feel like I have a lot of living to do, so that wakes me up every morning, and I'm just thankful.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So is there anything you want people to know before we close?
I guess, thank you for coming with us on this, you know, interview journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, just thank you all for having that. Anything else plug? No, just the show at Seasons, and well, I have another group show. So the show at Seasons ends July 3rd, and then I have another group show July 3rd in LA at Albert's Benza Gallery, and so that's a group show, and that's where one of these paintings are going to. And there's also a group show June 25th in Miami at Mindy Solomon Gallery.
Okay. Yeah, we'll link all of that down below so you guys can check it out. What is a quote or saying you live by?
Oh my gosh. My quote that I've been living by right now is be present. Be present, be present, be present. Because I feel like, and of course, the present is a gift. Because I think my mind is always going so many different places. So I'm just like, and enjoy the journey. So be present and enjoy the journey. I think we can get caught up into like the destination. And especially, a lot of times it's not even yourself who's thinking about it, but it's other people with their voices in your ear telling you that you need to be doing more. People always want you to do more, and I'm just like,
do you not see?
Like, I'm doing enough, baby. But yeah, you gotta quiet the noise, like, and just be present, enjoy the journey. Like, I take every situation, every show that I'm in, I treat it like it's the biggest gallery in the world. I treat it like it's the most important show, because it is for that moment, and I want to enjoy that moment, because the higher you climb, the more you're gonna miss where you were before.
Where it was like simple.
Yeah, where it was simpler, simpler time. Of course, like we always are nostalgic about our childhood, but when we were a child, we wanted to be an adult so bad. I was definitely one of those kids that I was grown.
Yeah.
I was a little missy, and so I wanted to be, an adult. I couldn't wait to do all the grown stuff, wear my hair certain ways, and and I think you just gotta slow down sometimes, like.
Yeah, life moves pretty fast.
Yeah, and I'm moving fast. We live in a kind of fast-paced city.
Yeah.
And I think you can balance. So I'm trying to find balance. Yeah, so I would probably say enjoying the journey, being present, and searching for balance.
Well, thank you, Lanise,
Thank
so
you,
much for your
James.
time today. Yeah, I'm really happy that we are able to sit down and talk. But thank you all for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.